So Jean's is a sparkling from Tasmania. It is considered by far the best winery in Tasmania, and it is basically champagne. That Louis Roederer looked all over the world to be able to produce a low-cost champagne, found the same soil and the same climate in Tasmania.
Huh.
And it's the same grape blend you would get.
Right.
It tastes, in my opinion, like a $45 bottle of champagne.
So is it, would you describe it as not sweet, but I don't know. I mean, it seems to me champagne is more dry. And
It is, and I'll tell you a little bit. If I'm giving you too much information, just stop me. But there is, everybody knows the term brut,
right.
And brut is a dry champagne. But what most people don't know about sugar is that at some level of sugar, you can't actually taste it. The wine tastes dry, but it adds body to the wine. So brut has the widest range of sugar allowed, but it always is within that dry range. So you can get them very lean and clean, which has no sugar or almost no sugar, or ones that have a texture to them, a body to them, and that is not solely, but a major contributor to that body is the sugar, which again you cannot taste. And these are both dry. They have kind of a medium body from what you would expect from a brut. And again, the same grapes. So basically, I'll tell you a little secret that some of the better restaurants in North Carolina, if you go in and buy a glass of champagne, there's a good chance you're getting this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you wanted to show a champagne,
yeah, that's great.
This would be one you can say, oh, this tastes.
And what does it mean when I see champagne style? What does that mean? Either on a label or on an ad or something like that.
So if you see champagne style, this would fall into that. It's the same grapes,
okay,
and it's made the same way, and it's a very loose term.
Yeah.
Like this one is literally made like champagne.
Okay.
But others, so what it means is that you use the same amount of grapes.
Okay.
You also, if they stick true to that term, they're also aging. When champagne is made, they make a regular wine, and then when you make a regular wine, it's going to be dry, and particularly champagnes are very dry. So they add a little sugar, and they actually they put the cork in, and there's a second fermentation,
right,
and
which gives the carbonation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then at the end, before they sell it to you, they freeze the neck because the debris builds up, and they store it kind of on a steep slant, and they turn them, and they get all the debris at the bottom. They freeze the neck. They either used to do it by hand. I think they have machines now, but it digs out the impurities. They put the cork back in before it unfreezes. And then,
no kidding.
And that's one of the reasons champagne costs so much money.
No kidding. I did not know that. So they put it upside down so all the debris falls into the neck?
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, Google riddling, and these guys would literally turn it a quarter a day.
Wow.
And that's why it costs so much. Whereas other methods is that they'll actually carbonate something in a big tank under pressure. But you get the finest bubbles, you get the best. Because if it's too bubbly, if you think about like Coca-Cola or something, it just fills your mouth. Right. And you can taste it, but if it had really fine bubbles, you taste more.
Cool.
So these are smaller bubbles.
Well, that's a great idea. That's a great suggestion. John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to see if I can get you one of these. Obviously, we have rosé, and we'll get the brut back in at some point. Then we get into all the other sparkling from around the world. And like you were mentioning, we have Cava. And these are all solid Cavas. I think,
So is that a grape varietal,
So,
or is it's a region of Spain?
and you're right, it's a region of Spain. Cava simply means cave.
Okay.
And that it got the name because all of this was done in caves to keep it cool, because obviously Spain is very hot.
Sure.
So how this got started was when phylloxera wiped out much of the vines in France. These guys needed a place to make a living.
Yeah.
And Spain being much drier, you have to have moisture for phylloxera to live. So these Champagne guys moved to Cava and used the exact same methods of making champagne, but on different grapes. So, so I wouldn't, even though it's made exactly the same, it doesn't have the same texture as champagne does. But I love it. It's crisper, a little cleaner, and it's a blend of 3 grapes. As is champagne is also a blend of 3 grapes, just 3 different grapes. And this one in particular was served about 10 years ago by the King of Spain at his coronation, which is kind of a fun story.
Juve y...
So, Juve y Camps.
Cool.
And so this is a very good one. They said if you wanted a higher quality, I could order something. It would be probably closer to the $30 range.
Yeah, no.
But you don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah, but it would stand in contrast to this. People tasting it. Oh, okay, I get it. Cava versus champagne.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And this would also show that you can make wine similar,
right,
in a different region.
Yeah.
And that's not. There's a few wines that's impossible to do. But you have, even in this situation, the conditions have to be just right.
Okay.
The other, and this has got a fun story on it too. So now we're getting into other sparklings, and you literally all over the world you can get them. The ones we have here are mostly France.
Okay.
So now we're going to talk about Cremant.
Okay.
And Cremant simply means sparkling from France, but not champagne.
Okay.
Yeah. They want to keep that for themselves. So this bottle, great price, $16. This is the original sparkling winemaker.
No kidding.
They were making sparkling 100 years or so before before champagne.
Cool.
And my favorite 2 stories of this is that Dom Perignon went on a pilgrimage, and as a religious guy, he spent some time at this monastery on his travels, and when he returned to Champagne, he had an epiphany, and so they started to make sparkling wine there as well. So basically, he stole this idea from them. It is different grapes, so it is going to taste different than champagne. But the other thing I like about this is that this was Thomas Jefferson's favorite sparkling wine.
No kidding.
And he liked it better than champagne. So,
so what was Winston Churchill's favorite champagne? Because he drank a lot of champagne, didn't he?
yes, he did. This was his favorite here, Paul Roger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then, in fact, I think we have a bottle here. Maybe not. We'll be getting more in this week, but we have the highest in, which is like $250, but they name their best champagne after him.
Oh, do they?
So you can, get that Winston Churchill wine, but it's, like I said, very expensive.
We digress. I just did. You mentioned Thomas Jefferson.
Yes. So
those are 3 great suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
2 questions. If I did it, how would I stage it? This first, this second, this third, or?
Yeah, I would either do it that way or the reverse order. It all depends. The only reason I would say to do it the reverse order is to tell people this is what champagne tastes like.
Okay.
And then say, and by the way, this is not from Champagne.
Yeah.
And then go this way. Here's the original.
Yeah.
And here's what the guys who migrated did.
Yeah, that's great.
But either direction, I think you've got a good
That's
flow.
Great. And then, And then I looked. I got this idea from this book that I got on wine tasting, and they were doing it in at least the photograph was in regular wine glasses. Is that acceptable? Is that?
Yeah, the very brief history of glasses is first they call it the coupe, the ones
Right.
you see from the Roaring '20s,
Yeah.
and they looked great, but the bubbles just went like that.
Yeah.
So then they switched to the really long, thin
Right.
ones you see, and those do preserve the bubbles extremely well, but they do not capture the bouquet. So the
Okay.
new thinking is to pour them into white wine glasses.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah, that's what they showed. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay,
that's
good. So
you're
that
right
would-
to do that.
Okay. Okay. Great. So if I were going to, and you think you can get the brut, the white?
I may have some in the back. I'm going to
Okay.
check for you.
If I wanted to replicate that, either from the same countries, or I don't know if Tasmania has, but the same idea or a similar idea, running parallel revs. Here's a distinctive style of wine, and I'm not sure what that would be, or maybe a distinctive. Okay, if you're looking for tannins, or if you're looking for light wines or something like that. But where I could do a similar compare and contrast. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I think
I exhausted my creativity on the bubbly.
Well, I think this is a great idea because a lot of people don't even think to do that. But we can take the reds in a couple of different ways.
Okay.
One is that like things like Cabernet or international grapes,
Yeah.
and everywhere they grow, they're of a different temperature, different soil, and they're going
Right.
to taste a little different.
Yeah.
But it's going to be more or less the same grape.
Okay.
Or you could pick something like you were saying, well, actually, that's probably closer to the first one is probably closer to the theme here. But what I was going to say was you could pick grapes that all have tannins, because you had mentioned tannins. And yes, Cabernet is the El Supremo. Everybody knows it for tannins, but here's Nebbiolo, here's Tannat.
Yeah.
There's two other grapes. If you wanted to do that. So,
I like the idea of and I realize it's not the same varietal with the sparkling wines, but I like the idea of maybe the same varietal from different regions or different parts of the world or something.
So I've got, if we were to do cabs, and this one's kind of interesting. I'll tell you about actually these. I want to make sure I get you mostly cab, because that's mostly Merlot.
Well,
Try
I guess it doesn't make sense. I was thinking if you did a real meritage
Yeah.
sort of tasting, but then it's just sort of all over the place.
Well, we don't, because there's such varying blends. I mean, we don't even have to touch Bordeaux, and let's talk about other.
Or you know what? What would? Well, that looks interesting. Lola Barolo. What would thematically, if okay, let's see what people blend with either cabs or whatever the primary wine is, and how does, if one's Cabin Syrah and one is Cabin Cab Franc, or one is, I don't know, is that
It's a great idea, and I'm thinking about it, but it may be. There's so many different grapes that can go in it. You may need more than 3 bottles to make that work.
okay?
But I'm thinking about.
Well, let's
Yeah,
should try primarily one varietal then.
so let's. let's do this.
Okay.
Got So this is a cab from Chile.
Okay.
And why I'm picking this is, they're working very hard to make, Cab one of their big wines.
Okay.
But as you know, it's a very narrow country.
Right.
It's cooler climate because the Andes are just pushing right up against it. And so this is a cooler climate Cabernet.
Okay.
And it's going to have a different flavor profile. You still know it's a cab, but it's going to be a little lighter.
Okay.
Not thin, but it's going to be a little lighter, and it's going to have a little more acid to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great bottle, and that's $18.
Okay.
And that's the other thing to know about it. You get great cab values south of the equator.
Okay.
So this is one.
Good.
Then you could pick. This bottle here is from Pasa Robles,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like the new hot region in Southern California.
Okay.
It's a little warmer, and this guy is one of the best winemakers. This is his entry-level bottle at 23, and it's got that richness.
Mm-hmm.
It has a hint of jamminess to it,
Mm-hmm.
which is characteristic of the soil in the warmer weather. But this is more of a bold California.
Okay.
It doesn't taste like Napa. It doesn't taste like Sonoma. And I would recommend this is
Okay.
one. And then I'm going to see if we can get you one. I just want to make sure I get you something which is, substantially cab.
Yeah. Right.
And not just, 10% or 20%.
Right.
It says it on here. Not I could just easily look this up, which I'm probably going to do. But I'm a big fan of French grapes grown in Italy. And this is a blend.
Uh-huh.
And Super Tuscans are generally mostly Cabernet
Uh-huh.
with some Italian grapes like Sangiovese.
Uh-huh.
The brief story about Super Tuscans is that they saved the Italian wine industry. After World War II, they were limping along. It was actually a feudal system for workers up to that point, and after that they were kind of made free, and they didn't have anybody to work on the farms, and the quality of the wine was bad. But a guy started to grow Cabernet in Tuscany, and a famous winemaker found out about it, couldn't believe the quality, and when they released that to the world, that one bottle, which is a pretty expensive bottle, but it got like the best wine of the world that year, and then people started buying Italian wine, Super Tuscans again.
Huh.
So that's what this is a Super Tuscan, and this one may be as well. Again, I have to look up to make sure there's enough cab to make it worth your while. But look at the vintage. This is the current release on this bottle.
Wow.
So one of these two will probably be your third
Okay.
bottle. So let me take a...
These are both made in Italy.
Right.
Okay.
These are both from Tuscany.
Okay.
And we call them Super Tuscans. They call them Toscanas.
I can't read without my glasses.
Oh, trust me. I'm with you on that. So let me see. First, I'm going to check on the sparkling, the Jeans.
Okay.
I'm going to look these up.
Thank you.